it's been a couple of days before I got around to actually starting this. Friday night I was supposed to go dancing, didn't happen. Saturday I went shopping, got kind of ill, and I'm still a little ill, I guess. And that kind of leveled me for most of Saturday and today. The exertion of shopping on top of what was probably a very mild cold. And then today I've been kind of not really letting myself get engaged in this. But I've continued the setup, and now we're ready to actually rock. I'm going to start, this is going to be December, January, then we run over to February, etc. Down the line, trying to deal with the proper schedule here that I have for the primaries and caucuses, and also dealing with all the special cases that I've invented here. Things like Carson's book tour and the dark money. Now, you know, I talked about this in the intro. My assessment of the different characters is probably pretty terrible, and certainly people who, you know, are supporters of one or another of these will probably say, well, wait a minute, no, they're all anti-abortion. Yeah, it's true. And it's really, one of the problems is related to the PAC. I have to kind of evaluate them, and from a fairly ignorant position. You know, I've watched the debates, I've been paying some attention, and I try to assess these. But one of the problems is, of the 6 that I picked, they're almost all the same. The most interesting characters are at the bottom of the pack. People like Rand Paul, who have some very, very different views. Chris Christie, who probably is pretty similar in overall, at least in the packaged views, but at least an impression gives some differences. And Kasich, who also definitely is very different. But out of the 6 here, you know, it's really hard to tell them apart in terms of ideological statements. Clearly, though, some are more associated with one issue than another, and that's what I've kind of used for it. I could certainly express other values. One of the problems is essentially when you play the canned game, these character sheets that are really your play sheets give information on what happens when each issue is up, and kind of hey, you get these bonus votes wherever you go, no matter what. So I kind of tried to reflect the bonus votes wherever you go, and issues these characters are interested in, which if they're up, I can assess while they're up. If they're not up, at least this gives me some ideas of things that affect them. So for the start of the game, I've assigned my colors. We've got Trump, Carson, Cruz. Somehow Cruz seems red to me, I don't know. And Trump has to be purple because that's like so imperial. Carson's mellow, so he's going to be blue or green. I gave Fiorina green rather than, I don't know. Red would kind of suit her too, but somehow this just worked for me. I don't much like Rubio, so he got orange because he reminds me of somebody who really likes orange. And then Bush yellow. Well, you know, I like yellow more than I like orange, but man, orange seems less kind of sappy, and Bush seems to exemplify sappy, which is why he's not a terribly high-scoring candidate out of the points that I've got here. Fiorina ends up pretty poor, though, too, out of them. Anyway, normally you would all have the same amount of points, characters based on the same amount of points. That, how valuable that is, one, it can't express what the reality is, whether I've done that or not. And two, it's very possible to spend your points in an unwise manner. You know, so if you say, well, he's got so much cash on hand or something, you know, that's really expensive points, and you don't really want to handle that. What this doesn't really take into account is, you know, the election season doesn't start in February with everybody kind of equal in voter appreciation. And it certainly isn't starting here in December with any kind of equality that is being indicated here. But that's what we're going to start with, and we'll just see what kind of falls out. I'm not really expecting this to be an adequate simulation in any sense. It never has been, and trying to translate it into this later period is really not going to work with the issues the way they are. One of the first things that happen is the highest charisma character, who's Trump, gets the choice of who to make as the first player. Now, generally, what you'd really want to do is point to the guy who's going to make you the last player. I'm doing the opposite of that. I've just shoved him up here because I had him first on my sheet. So that'll work. So I guess it's time to get started. And I'm not going to allocate any the internet funding for the first turn. I'll say that's already baked in. So the first thing that happens is Trump now, with his high charisma, has the first chance to bring an issue to the forefront. Well, too bad there's not an immigration issue, but he's already done that, right? But yeah, that's going to be, his first bonus, is that he can throw an issue out there. And then in order, I guess we go with Carson and Fiorina. Fiorina is almost absolutely guaranteed to bring abortion as her issue because she gets a penalty if she doesn't have it there. She's, I think, the only actual anti-abortion character I put up there because nobody else really is nailing on it in the same way. Likewise, everybody probably says, oh, Obamacare sucks, right? But, I'm associating Carson and Cruz more with the it's listed here as anti-medicine, but it's really just anti-socialized medicine is the position that it has. And I'm using that as a stand-in for it. We'll see how that all works out. Almost everybody, though, and I think everybody on this stage is going to oppose Obamacare pretty heavily. But it's just, again, a matter of balancing. So what I have to do is look for Trump and which of his issues kind of helps him the most, and whether he thinks one of the other characters is going to bring one of those up instead of him. Because he only gets to bring one up at this point. Now, he only gets to bring one up for the game as well and revive one. So maybe this isn't the most important thing to him. We'll see. Take on that only one issue per game. He can raise new issues. He just can't raise the same issue again. So he probably wants to raise something. It's fairly cheap. So the ordering, Trump went first. He picked jobs as his bonus. It doesn't do a whole hell of a lot for him directly. He has a jobs rating, so he got some votes in Ohio, so did some other people. And there's people with exploited environment or pro-oil companies who are going to get values as well. Of course, they're all probably at least somewhat leaning in those directions, but again, it's to try to give a balance, some kind of non-singular set of characters who all have almost the same rating everywhere. Carson passed, actually, because his book tour caused him issues. He's got these free flights everywhere. He doesn't really want to have some of these issues in place because there are bonuses to going to specific places that maybe aren't too advantageous to him. These may actually drive his bonus, though. Fiorina paid the buck for abortion, and this one's kind of interesting. So there's only two characters who count as pro-life. None of them are going to be allowed a pro-choice surrogate under any kind of rational decision making. So I'm going to disallow it for here because these characters are all pro-life enough that there is not going to be any pro-choice movement in favor of them. Normally, if you had a 0 in something, you're eligible for a surrogate on the pro-choice side, on a side of an issue that you don't support. So I'm going to bend the rules that way. Again, we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff. It's just because the parties, first of all, even at the time that this came out, you pretty much didn't have many pro-choice Republicans, and they weren't getting, a lot of surrogates in their favor. And likewise, you didn't have a lot of pro-life Democrats getting surrogates. So it's kind of one of the places where the game kind of doesn't work. So what's going to happen is each player is going to roll a die, and add their pro-life rating. And if they succeed, they get some money. Now, I don't know what to do with Trump, because he's got this problem where the way I see him, any contributions, any fundraising, he can't really take without getting penalized somehow because of the way he's phrased his campaign. And it's not like he's shown any willingness to put a lot of money of his own cash into play. But he might, and that's something that I may have to tinker with as I'm playing. So he's got a chance of a surrogate, though. And, you know, this is money that maybe if he got it. So we'll see what he does here. So he's got a base roll of 3. He's not going to win this. Carson has +2 because he's pro-life. So he also has a 3. Cruz, no bonuses, even though he's pretty pro-life. Fiorina has a +3. So she's at the top with 4 now. And Rubio ends up tying her, as does Bush. Well, I believe if there's a tie, there's no surrogate. So nobody's going to get the bonus for any of these. And the abortion issue goes up as well. And now we have to go to the next charisma, which looks like it goes down to Rubio if he wants to raise an issue. And Rubio's decided to go forward with paying for the foreign relations card. In some ways, the defense card is a better one for him, but foreign relations works better at this moment because the bonus he gets off world policeman is helpful in Florida. And he's sitting in Florida. He cannot move on his first turn, score Florida, and pump it through. He's got his multiplier there. We give Bush, yeah, we didn't give Bush a multiplier. I don't feel like he has an organization in Florida in particular. He may have a national organization at this point of some sort, but we don't know. So, and again, it doesn't, you know, if you're not trying to match a historical situation or even a realistic one, you don't really see that. So if we look for sequence of play, what do we have here? Yeah, I got to roll for the length of time on each of these issues. So this is kind of painful because I got to look for them in here. So for example, jobs is going to last for 7 turns, assuming nothing happens. And luckily I was able to find that chip very easily. So 7 turns, starting with this turn, I believe, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'll end at the end of that turn. And we roll for each of the others. Abortion is only going to last for 4 turns, and it's going to take me a while to find it, so I'll be back. One of the things that can happen in this game is 2 candidates or more could end up in the same location at the same time, in which case there's a potential for a debate. If a debate happens, basically you roll dice against each other, and the difference in those dice is how far you win or lose the debate. Added to that die roll is any values on any of these debate positions you have of the issues that are currently active, which makes it an important thing to have active positions, right? This doesn't reflect reality at all. You know, this reflects maybe town meetings within a couple blocks of each other and whatever. But, you know, what happens in reality is they gather all the main candidates a few times during the campaign and have them debated out all on one stage, and there's no representation of that within the game. That is not just a modern thing. You know, by the time this game was out, that was pretty much the standard assumption. The only place where it changes, where I'd say this model almost vaguely works, is sometimes during New Hampshire and Iowa. There's this, you know, there were kind of ad hoc type of discussions that happened not far from each other. And the other side of the debating, the kind of things that were happening ad hoc, would happen on the national stage anyway, and are happening, where one candidate will, you know, diss another candidate's position or whatever and just say it's ridiculous. but that just gets national coverage. The problem with the debates is you end up rolling, what, 2 dice, and you compare, and the winner of the debate gets votes equal to the difference in the state that the debate took place, and the loser loses half the votes in the state in which the debate took place. And if it happened in a split city, I think you get to decide which state it happened in. And then organizations get to channel that through. And there could be multiple pawns in one space at the same time, and that there's just multiple debates in that city. Whatever that's meant to represent, it doesn't seem like the normal debating situation, but that's what you have. One of the real problems with this game right at the beginning is you have this choice of, do you want to start a surrogate right away? If you start a surrogate, he's starting in the same location as you are, and that feels somewhat obnoxious, to tell you the truth. But so Trump with no surrogates and not a lot of money isn't going to go for one. He's just going to roll a single die for his movement and see where he can go. Now, because it's the first turn of the game, just like when a surrogate starts, he's got the option to stay where he is, which he probably will do. His current situation, he's got this job. Oh, shit. I gotta be careful. He's got this jobs issue here, and he may want to take advantage of this, which gives him bonuses in DC, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, blah, blah, blah. So it might actually be better for me to actually move this turn to get those bonuses. Do I want to buy organization? Again, I don't have a lot of cash, so none of that makes a lot of sense. So I got a 3. That means I can move along a yellow line, or red or blue. Actually, blue line is the biggest I can do. So I'm trying to kind of bunk my way out towards these. I'm going to move on the simplest of all into New Jersey, into the Philadelphia area, because that's worth 7 votes. Now, my charisma's 4, and I rolled a 3 and attributed that die to the candidate, which is why I want to get a surrogate at some point soon. So I get 3 extra votes. So I have 10 votes to spread between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Now, I'm going to throw the majority in Pennsylvania. I can throw up to 3 plus my charisma bonus into New Jersey. I'm just going to throw 3 into New Jersey. And the way I rate these is I look up New Jersey, and normally you're using a sheet that's easier to cope with. I'm going to put a little dot here to indicate that I've visited. Normally you're using these sheets, and each player has their own, and it's much easier to record what's going on in them. But with all the different characters I have and everything, and the changes that I had to make, I felt like this was the better presentation for me. But I'm going to run into problems with it. So I've thrown 3 into New Jersey. That means I'm throwing 7 into Pennsylvania. But, and this is where you got to pay attention to all this crap, or have it on your sheet, I get my jobs rating as well in Pennsylvania. My jobs rating is only 1, so I'm throwing 8 votes into Pennsylvania, which is here. And again, I put a dot here. Once I've got 3 dots there, I've got an organization that I automatically get for free. Those generally don't tend to be a very good move, but again, I'm not sure how Trump and his money are going to work. So that's how I'm handling that. So that's his turn. Now we go to Carson, and my pipe's out. Okay, so from his standpoint, he also has a high valued charisma, I gave him a surrogate. I didn't give Trump a surrogate because I don't feel like he deserves it. I feel like Carson kind of probably has some grassroots support that's not like, you know, big Hollywood supporters or governors or something going on and campaigning for him, but he may have people who are speaking for him. I haven't seen any evidence of it, so it probably shouldn't be there, but I gave it to him anyway. So he's going to call one of these up. Now he has 16 turns of surrogate. I see no reason not to I see no reason to split those surrogate terms up. So 4, 8, 12, 16 puts it to here. I'm going to drop that in with him. The reason for that is that it gets me 2 dice to begin with on my turn, which is pretty big. So I roll my 2 dice. And I roll a 1. A 1's important because it means I get an event card. And we draw this. Texas Medical Association backs a candidate. Current healthcare rating times current number of popular votes in Texas. I'll get a pile of money. Okay. Well, current healthcare rating is the anti-health. So let's see how many votes people have in Texas. I suspect, yeah, we got 10 for Cruz, so he's got a big bonus there. His 10 and his anti-health, is that anti-medicine? Yeah, anti-medicine is the current healthcare proposal. Gives him the most, so he's going to get 10 megabucks additional. Normally, we would just do that as, oh, we mark him as now having 15 bucks hard cash. But because I'm using the dark money, I'm going to match contributions for the dark money characters in the dark money side of things. That's their bonus, man. So he got a big pile of money, and we'll see he's probably going to start using that in some valuable ways. No votes or anything. So now I've got movement of 3 and 1. Well, with my high charisma, I want to use the 3 for myself, which means the no charisma guy here is probably the 1. The no charisma guy also doesn't have any issues associated with him, so he's not going to get any bonus. He just kind of walks around doing stuff. So I'm going to send him into Ohio, and that'll just gain me 5 quick votes in Ohio for Carson. But he will stay himself in Michigan. He's allowed to take, he doesn't have to take his bonus flight on this. This could be the start of his book tour. So he's going to get 7 votes in Michigan, plus his 3 charisma gives him 10, but then do any of his issues stand out there? And he's got the abortion issue, and that's it. And that's not going to be important in any way in Michigan. So he gets his 10 votes additional in Michigan. And I've already given him 4. I'm assuming. I'm not sure where those 4 came from otherwise. All right. And that'll push us to the next character. And I need to kind of take a break. I probably don't want to do too much of this on video, but the problem is, what is there of the game to show, other than every single move? Well, we can jump in when interesting things happen. I'm not necessarily trying to play to win. There are strategies that work in this game that I feel are kind of not, I don't know. You end up centering on a core set of states, and you just go for them. And you throw your money into those, get your electoral votes in those, and you just try to win those. Now, that works fine if you're trying to get the first level, through the first level of the campaign, but when it comes down to the final end of the campaign, you've got to score well in a lot of states. But there are different ways of doing that, and focusing on the primary and caucus schedule can be an important way of handling that. But it's also not unimportant to throw votes around in the way that the characters are, in terms of being in places where maybe they're not going to, heavily campaign in the future. The problem is, wherever you campaign that you don't have an organization, at some later point you're going to say, ah, shit, I wish I had just channeled everything through the organization. So I think buying organizations may be what I'm kind of failing to do effectively here. Cruz, I also gave a surrogate to represent his father, and I'm going to put him on mine there with 5 turns. And where do I want to start him? That's a good question. See, Cruz has some interesting points here. So he gets like 12 extra votes each time he visits Texas. But he starts with some votes in Texas. But he also starts with an organization. And there are a number of factors that say, well, pumping my Texas lead up at the beginning might be good. I think I'd like to buy an organization to take advantage of this dude, though. I don't have to start him in the same city. But then the question is, well, which way do I want to go? So I could start in like El Paso, and I'd start scoring some points in New Mexico. Or I could declare that I'm fundraising with the surrogate. Now, fundraising with a surrogate's interesting. The surrogate costs you $2 per turn, but you get with a surrogate, you get a single die roll if you fundraise. A single die roll will generate you, on average, $2.5. So you're going to generate money if you have a surrogate on the board doing that for you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to declare that I'm advertising, that I'm fundraising with him. I'll roll my dice. And it doesn't really matter which die I use for which character, because I have no desire to move, and I have no charisma. So I will score 7 plus my 12 is 19 votes in Texas. I have a 2.5 organization. That can't be right. Yeah, I think it is. 19 times 2.5 gets me 47 votes, actually 47 and a half. More votes in Texas, or points, or whatever you want to say. I also get to roll a die for my extra money, and I get $4 off my fundraising, which is nice. So that puts me up to $19. And because I have dark money, I put that over in the dark money section. I can use that for advertising. That's pretty much it. I'll record those 47 votes. Okay, so moving onward. I don't remember if I covered Cruz, but picked up money as well. The money, the dark money, and votes, big pile of votes in Texas. Fiorina jumps over to where she can get the most votes in the abortion debate. She got a free flight to anywhere, basically. Went for some of the fundraising, and it's really going to be hard not to fundraise with these characters with dark money bonuses on them, because the dark money, just the way I'm enabling it, it just doubles the amount of investment you get. You get some hard money and you get some dark money. Now, chances are you'd actually be getting more dark money than hard money out of this. But it's a big enough advantage as it is. So, yeah, we see that with pretty much all of the characters who have the dark money advantages. They're saying, screw it, man, we're gonna fundraise with a surrogate, and that surrogate will more than pay for itself. Now, I can't use that dark money to create surrogates. I can't use it really for much of anything except advertising, but advertising can be really potent in this game. You can throw a bunch of votes down where you need them, when you need them, and that's pretty important, actually. Um, both Bush and Rubio staying in Florida, collecting votes. Now Rubio has a real advantage in Florida, but Bush is kind of looking at maybe I can get there second place, with the current foreign relations situation. He's getting some points there. And if he visits it 3 times, he has a machine there. Of course, he spent a lot of effort on that, but you can always spend your money elsewhere and channel ads through those elsewheres. Who else went? I guess that's it. And now we're back around to the beginning. This is, the base game is a more competitive exercise than this is. This is attempting to represent things the base game doesn't represent. And in terms of that, I'm just kind of fiddling around trying to see, okay, how far am I from being able to get the simulation that I might want out of this design. And I think it's pretty far still, but we'll see. As a candidate is such a weird thing to try to portray because he doesn't really follow the rules in any sense. And you can almost say that you can say the same about Carson, really. And I don't know how to fit him into the mold of this game. I'm just going to roll dice and move him, and we'll see what happens. So he gets a flight to any big city, and right now he has certain bonuses. Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. All right. Well, the problem I have is I'd kind of like to get into, some of the early primary states where he's actually been putting some effort in. But Illinois is not on that list. How about Kentucky? I'm looking for a dual city that'll help. I'd like to throw some points into, so if I go into like Cincinnati, I'd get the bonus points for Ohio, but I could also trickle some points into Kentucky. He doesn't have a lot of bonus points going anywhere else right now. Get the rating once in Kentucky. Okay. So we'll go here to Cincinnati, where we have a base of 5 points. We'll make that 9. Okay. And he gets his rating in Kentucky for jobs, which I'm going to mark down here because it's only taking, you can only get it once off that. So that is, he doesn't have a lot of jobs points. He has 1. So that's an extra point there. And Ohio was also on the list, so he gets an extra point there. So right now we're looking at 5 plus 4 is 9, 10, 11 points. He gets the 4 for his charisma. To split between those two, I'll put 4 of those 11 in Kentucky. A little dot, and then Ohio, I'll get the other 7. And a dot there, and that'll cover him. It looks like I already got Carson's little dude running around here. Wonder what he's doing up there. Yeah, he threw some votes into Ohio. It's less valuable for me to fundraise because I don't have the dark money advantage. But what I do have is that big internet money advantage. And since this is turn 2, that takes place. So I get a couple. Oh, I forgot to deal with anything possibly being replaced, but nothing could be. Dirty Tricks could get rid of some of these. That's a hard thing to do because when you dirty trick something, you're probably giving the advantage to the guy with the highest charisma. He's the guy who can raise it. So unless Trump dirty tricks to get rid of issues, that's not going to be terribly advantageous. And he's got an advantage in doing so, though. So I don't know what I want to do here. If I want to just collect votes, I have a huge surrogate. So fundraising might be cool, but right now votes seem cooler. And I have the internet fundraising of 2, so that gets me up to 8. So I think I'm just gonna be rolling 2 dice, but I gotta decide what I'm gonna do. So one of my dice is gonna go for this book tour. And the book tour right now, abortion is, I think, the only thing that's available to me. Which may mean that I want to go to a southern state to take advantage of that. Debating is often valuable for what it's worth, so I'm going to count on going into Alabama here. If I'm going to be doing that, I probably ought to be buying myself an organization there. I have some cash. So Alabama has, and we haven't seen this happen before, has 9 votes. That means a Strength 1 organization only cost me $2. A Strength 2 is going to cost me $4, and that only gets me 2.5 times. So the cheaper Strength 1 organization is probably a better deal for me. So that's what I'm going to put in play. Now, I wish I had had that before abortion came up, but yeah. So let's spend $2 on that. That drops him back to 6, and we get a multiplier of ×2. Now, the problem with the ×2 multiplier is it's not very potent, but it's also probably not going to rack up a lot of votes for me. And some other person can come in late, have an idea of how many votes I have, maybe through a poll or whatever, and just toss themselves in there, with a ×3 or 4 multiplier, run down there, hit the big city, throw some advertising in, and boom, I'm like so far behind. It's one of the dangers of throwing your organization into place early. What am I going to do with my little dude? I'm not going to fundraise. I'm going to bop around in the Northeast with him and try to collect some votes up there. Okay, so first thing I get is, since I rolled that, I get this. Agribusiness plus current votes in Wisconsin gets a ton of money. Well, nobody's really making a big deal about agribusiness here. This is one of those crazy events, right? Nobody's making a big deal about agribusiness. If anybody had it, they would get a swamp load of money. But since nobody does, but nobody has whatever the opposite is, which doesn't really exist, everybody's involved in this, and anybody could get a big pile of money. Now, what about Trump? Well, I don't know what happens if he takes the money. But he's not in the running for this. Carson's got a 4, which means if nobody else runs a 4, he's going to get a huge donation. Fiorina got a 4 as well, so there's no donation on this, which is appropriate. Nobody's really supporting agribusiness enough that they should get it. Okay, so now we have a 3 and a 1. We want to take the 3 and we're going to fly down here and we'll have a debate. And then the 1... I think we'll just slither over into Pennsylvania and grab 5 votes there. You can see why one might not want to record things in this manner. All right, here, what does Carson get? He has 4 plus his 3 charisma is 7. Plus, he gets his Alabama, which is a 1-time rating. Now, Fiorina had that as well, and I should have marked that down for her. Carson gets his one time in Alabama. And he has a 2 anti-abortion. So now I'm at 7, 8, 9 that I'm channeling in through there. And I'm channeling that through my new multiplier, so I get 18 votes there, or points, however you want to put it. And that gets me up to a commanding 20. Now, for the debate itself, we have to, first of all, Fiorina could deny the debate. And if you refuse it, you get penalized right away. Either one could refuse it, but Carson went in there. He's a little weaker, but that's okay. So the debate value here, let's see, we've got the pro-life values. Do we have anything else in play? Free trade, anti-labor. Neither of those come into play. Jobs comes into play. So now Fiorina's up to 4 points on the debate. And I think that's it. Whereas Carson is not going as well. He only has 2. So Fiorina is going to have +2 to her die roll. Let's roll her die roll first. So she rolls a 9. She's going to win the debate. Carson only rolls a 3. So there's a 6-point difference. Fiorina is going to get 6 points over in Alabama, bringing her up to a 16. And Carson, who lost by 6, only loses 3 of the points, not because of the multiplier. You don't lose as many supporters when you lose a debate, which is one of the reasons it's kind of cool to risk. The other reason is, hey, I got my organization in there. I'm going to pump some points in. All right. Now I got to think, or rest or something. Chris has decided to continue fundraising. He's spending $2 building himself a little organization down in Louisiana. He doesn't have any vote bonuses in Louisiana, but he thinks he can get in there. And if he doesn't, well, I'm sure he'll use it sometime. So I get the big, I could go anywhere I like if I wanted. Now, anywhere I like doesn't include one important place, which is Alaska. I considered spending $2, $1 to build an organization in Alaska, and another $1 to go into and fly up to Alaska. I'd have to pay another $1 to fly out. My feeling is it's not worth it. Even though I get a big vote bonus by going to Alaska, using my candidate on that kind of trip for so few electoral votes just doesn't seem worth it. So since I'm going to Louisiana anyway, or since I was planning on it anyway, I'll go to New Orleans with my with one of my dice. My other die is my fundraiser guy. We roll the dice for him. I'm collecting up a good deal of money with him. I probably could be using him differently, but money is really useful. So I get $3 added to both my totals. Oh, and I collected some internet money from him too. So now his votes, he's only going to get 6 for Louisiana because I have nothing special, which I find kind of strange. Louisiana's big oil country now, and it kind of was at that point. But the 6 votes goes through my new organization. And if I can find it, I just built it up here. That gives me 12 votes in Louisiana, and that's kind of sweet. Fiorina's at her last turn for her regular surrogate. She's got to worry about this. She doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. So I'm planning on staying in the South. I'm going to fundraise with my surrogate. I'll probably buy a new one next turn. So we roll our dice. Do I want to build an organization? I can't I just don't have much real money. That's the problem. So I get a 1 and a 4. The 1 is an event, and I'll probably use that. Environment becomes the active issue. That means foreign relations is gone as an issue. And it can come back, so I'm going to put it over here to note that. But now we immediately take the effect of what the environment is. And this is kind of why Cruz may have wanted to hold off on Alaska, because now he may get huge bonuses going there. Into a problem where I noticed one of my little stickers fell off. And it's kind of dirty now because I used Elmer's to try to re-stick it. I don't know how well that's going to work, but it's one thing to keep in mind with games that have little stickered components and stuff. They may not hold up. You know, this is, I don't know, 20 years later, or 20, a little longer than that. All right, so environment became an active issue. And we have different stances here that we have to worry about. Well, nobody's protecting the ocean, but some people are exploiting the ocean, which immediately gives, I shouldn't have gone to Louisiana until this, Cruz, who has the exploit the ocean, I think he's the only person who really cares about this. And the only real reason is because of the oil drilling. Anti-ocean, he has 6 points of that. So he's going to get an automatic 6 points in Alaska. And probably won't go because of that. And if he goes to Louisiana, he's got a 1 shot in there, and he's got extra bonuses in Texas. Now, did anybody else... I have to see if anybody else has environment. Yeah, these guys do too. Rubio has pro-oil, which we'll get to in a bit. Yeah, that's going to be another pile of points. So that's 6 more points for Cruz because he's pro-oil in Alaska. It's up to 12. And he doesn't have any of the others, does he? He may have exploit environment. Yeah, he has the anti-environment 4. So he gets 4 more in Alaska. Yeah, I should have built that thing, the organization there. So that puts me up to 16 in Alaska. I love him there. But Louisiana and Wyoming also get 4 points each. So Wyoming's going to be easy to find, or easy to record. Louisiana should be my new one. Wait, 6 points, not 4. Right? Or am I lower on exploit environment? Yeah, I'm lower on exploit environment. Okay, so that's... Automatic rating is 4 in Louisiana, but I've got my organization there, so it's 8. So I get 20. Anything positive gets channeled through it. And did we add to Alaska? I hope so. Okay. And let's see about other people here. He doesn't care. No care. Over here we may have some. We have an anti-environment 2 for Fiorina that I gave her. Which will give her 2 in Alaska, Louisiana, and Wyoming. Okay. And I'm just making sure I don't have others here. We have a pro-oil of 2 for Rubio, which gives him 2 in Alaska. And we didn't give any of that over to Bush. Okay. And now let's look for other interesting things. So protect oceans plus preserve our environment plus a die gets an endorsement from the League of Conservation Voters. My feeling here again is none of the Republicans have a real 0 in any of these ratings. None of them are running on even, yeah, I'm as environmental as the next guy. So I'm not going to even allow that. Normally, each party would be assessed on their own for this. And this is why I like running the nominating process at the same time for both parties, because I want that only to go to one person. The League of Conservation Voters isn't going to endorse a Republican. And this is my way of handling that reality, is to just say some of these are just out of the ballpark. You obviously can't do that in a competitive game unless you make the decision beforehand that, yeah, these stances just don't work in this party, you know? Okay, so this is during Fiorina's turn, I believe. And she got over here, was doing fundraising for another turn. I hope I have not recorded that, so I roll a die for that. And it's $3. It goes into both because she has the dark money advantage. Huh. I wonder what number I started her with. She hasn't spent any. I gave her a 5. So she's up to 8 in dark. Okay. And we can remove her surrogate at this point. She probably wants another one. And now she has to use the 1 for movement, I fear. And in particular here, this is where it starts getting complicated, because you've got these issues that are kind of working together. So she's got the abortion issue, and if I was, if I had the full player sheet here instead, with the fixed player characters, this would be easier because those are set up a little better. I didn't bother doing that. I thought this would work well. She also has the anti-environment. Okay. So in terms of anti-environment, exploit environment, I kind of like Louisiana. On the other hand, over here for abortion, Louisiana only gives me 1. Do I want to go hit Cruz here? Well, Cruz has huge oil support. This is not the turn to go debate him. So what about Mississippi? Is that interesting to me? Not terribly. I would like to get to Georgia. But I'm not going to. Alright, we'll go into Mississippi, but I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting stuck someplace I don't want to go. I get 3 votes in Mississippi, and I really... and that's definitely not on the list. Okay, 3 votes in Mississippi, and I get an extra vote for this. So 2 from the city, 1 from charisma, and 1 from the abortion issue. So 4 votes in Mississippi. And in a way, this is kind of cool because, honestly, a state like Mississippi, you don't really want to invest too much into. But in a sense, you kind of don't even want to have to visit it. Ideally, you build an organization in these small states and pump your money into them for ads at the end of the game. The thing is, all these votes are kind of maybe secret, so other people might throw votes in with their advertising, but you've got this little edge because you visited it once early on or whatever. All right, time to swap out batteries and figure out what Rubio's up to. The problem is I don't have anywhere I terribly want to target going to. I would like to get some of those early states scored, but I'm not starting in the location for that. I'm going to keep doing my fundraising with my 1 character, or with my surrogate, but I don't know where I want to go with my other. I don't really want to pay for a priority flight someplace, but maybe I could, it depends on what I roll. If I roll a 3 or a 3, I can guarantee I'll go into Georgia. If I roll a 4, I might go anywhere in the country, really. Any big place. And probably I'll end up trying to score, something like my points in jobs, although I don't have a whole hell of a lot of those. So I'm not going to buy an organization because I can't guarantee, maybe I'll only roll 1s and 2s. Where I don't want to go is where I'll get debated. And I get an event. There's a 1 there. Pro-Jews plus a die gets 3 dice worth of megabucks. I feel like there's enough pro-Jewish sentiment in terms of pro-Israel as well as other factors that everybody's in the rating for this. Nobody has a pro-Jews rating. We'll see. Trump, Carson, Cruz. Okay. So now 3s are cleared out. Rubio. They thought about giving Rubio and others, Cruz, etc. So, okay, so Fiorina is going to get that, and there's actually a decent amount of money. 3 dice worth of bucks. Does this include dark money? Oh yeah. So 5, 6, 7 bucks. So that's a nice little pot sweetener for her. Unfortunately for him, Rubio does not get out of Florida on this die roll. Do I want to go debate Bush? Yeah, sure. I got all the advantages right now. So I'll use my... if I use my 1-pointer, I could follow a red line over to Orlando. But Orlando is not a very valuable place. It's only a 3-point city. I'm better off shooting up here, maybe winning the debate. So I get 5. I don't get my limited charisma bonus. Do I have a permanent Florida bonus? I think I do. No? I thought I did. Huh. Oh, it was the Foreign Affairs that was giving me a Florida bonus. Okay. So I get 5 points in Florida. And I get to channel that into here, which is... looks like 12. So I'm up to 34. And now I can debate Bush. Now, let's look at what our values are and whether or not we want to, whether or not Bush wants to do this. So right now, defense is not on the line. Jobs is on the line, that's 1. Pro oil is on the line, that brings me to 3. For Bush, there's nothing. So I'm definitely going to go. Whether Bush wants to debate or not, well, he could win it. Backing down from a debate, I believe, loses you... is it half the value of the city or the full value? It's half the value of the city, so I'd lose 2 votes, 3 votes. Say 3 because it's negative, always round against, right? 3 votes. So I'm going to stay in there. So let's see. Rubio is at +3 right now, I believe. And there isn't just a, hey, you're a good debater. So he gets an 8, which is pretty good. And Bush only gets a 5, which means there's a 3-vote difference. Bush is going to lose 2 here. Of course, the disadvantage to debating when you're going to lose is not only do you lose points, but the other guy may gain them. So he just gained 3 times 2.5, which sounds like 7 more votes. However, I don't believe Bush can win in Florida. Maybe his only goal there is to put some votes in there so that he can place in the primary. It looks like Rubio's got off to a pretty good jump, and he starts with a good position comparatively, at least the way that I see things. That puts me over to Bush. Now, the surrogate's over here too and could sit around and fundraise because Rubio's got to leave the city next turn, so it's safe to stick around there. The only exception is he could fundraise, and then he could stick around and debate. But he's probably safer leaving his surrogate in place rather than anything else. I got to figure out what Bush wants to do, though, in terms of points. We can get into Georgia on any die roll. So that may be our best move, is if we have organization capability there. We have $10. Georgia is 16 electoral votes. Do I want to spend some bucks on that? Oh, there is nothing with 16. Okay, so how do they determine this? I believe there was a calculation that didn't come from the chart. Huh? The number of electoral votes times the strength of the organization divided by 5, raising all fractions to the next whole number. So with 16, times 2 would be 32. It would cost $7 to get an organization there. I don't really want to do that. I'm hoping maybe I'll fly somewhere bigger and better. I just don't have much cash on hand. Putting a big, putting a 2-point organization in Georgia when I may or may not go there just doesn't sound worth it. So we'll roll 2 dice. We'll be fundraising with our minor character. All right, we get a 2 and a 4. That means we get a flight anywhere, which we like the idea of. Is Bush good at anything? He's got a bonus in California. A lot of votes there. Doesn't seem like a bad place to go. Let's go to Southern California. Oh, wait. Oh, I've got my dude down here. My fundraiser dude down there. Right? Oh no, Bush is yellow. Okay. Yeah, so let's go to LA and get our big points there, and we do our fundraising as well. So our fundraising gets us $1 in each direction. It doesn't cost anything to maintain your campaign, which is kind of nice, I guess, but you can run a really low cost campaign for free. But all right, and my votes here are 8, plus I get another one, 9. I don't have the money for an organization in California. I'm probably looking at visiting it a lot and trying to get its big votes. Or something like that. It's really shocking to me how much bigger Texas has gotten. You know, it always shocks me. Geez, it's almost the size of New York. Now it's bigger than New York, and that's a lot of that's apparently there's a flight from California to Texas just in terms of population. California is still growing for other reasons, but a lot of people from California are moving to Texas. Alrighty, let's push this over here. Can't say either one's a place I'd particularly want to live. Well, we've gone around a couple of times. I don't know why this is where it is. It should be here. I knocked it over, and I'll send this up. And what do we say? This is second week of December done.